Hello everyone, welcome back to another interesting session. And today we are going to talk about chapter 3 in the earliest cities from grade 6 CBSE. So we learn a lot about the ancient cities, especially we are going to focus more on Harappa. Yes. So before we get started, let's talk about an old building that two kids found, Jaspal and Harpreet. Like any other kid, these two kids were also playing cricket in some place very near to their house. And when we were quite young, we used to say this place that was inhabited, we used to consider it to be a haunted house, or it has been not been used, so definitely we used to think that there's something wrong with the house. So these two kids were playing there. They used to describe a place as that haunted house. They used to call it the haunted house, which had old bricks, a lot of twigs growing out, and nobody knew the use of this old building. So once they realized that there were two people who were looking carefully at this haunted house and they were talking to each other. And one of them said, look at the architecture. Look at the architecture of this place. And the other one talked about the fine quality of wood that this house had. And then they started to plan and they decided that they're going to write a letter off to the minister so that the government officials can do something to preserve this beautiful house. So Jaspal and Harpreet, they were quite surprised at this time. They were dumbstruck. They were like, we used to call it haunted house. And everybody is talking about its beauty. Everyone is talking about, its wood. The design of the building is quite amazing for the rest of the people and not us. So now we are going to find out what happened in the past. Especially when we talk about Harappa. So we'll talk first about the story of Harappa. Then we'll learn more about what was special about these cities, their houses, the arrangement of the drains, streets, and life in the city. So I'll show you a glimpse of how did Harappa look like. Where exactly do we have Harappa? Here, you guys can see this is where we have Harappa. This is a site in present-day Pakistan. So I'm going to focus here. And also, the site looks something like this. We have old buildings here. And for the first time, it came to everybody's notice when around 150 years ago, some people in Punjab, they started, especially the engineers, they started to construct a railway line very near to this site. So they went around, looked the place, and they found this heap or the mound of bricks, which was of fine quality. And they decided to pick up these and reuse it as a source to construct, as a raw material to construct the railways. So it was many years down the line that everybody came to know the beautiful brick that they used, the fine quality brick that those people used to build the railway lines. It belonged to the first city that was ever discovered from the history. And this site is considered as one of the oldest sites in the subcontinent, the oldest one in the subcontinent. And later on, when they surveyed the place around, they found other places also which had the similar art form, which had the similar kind of brick used. So they named all these places as Harappan. These places, these sites might have been developed or they might have came into existence around 4,700 years ago, and we came to know about them just around 80 years ago. Not even 150. 150 was the time period when we started to construct the railway lines, and we were not even aware what we are making use of. Is it the brick that we are using? Is it from the present day, or does it belongs to 4,700 years ago? So basically, people back then, they pulled down this ancient building to construct a new railway line, and they were unaware of what they were doing. So let's move on to the next question. What makes these buildings or these cities so special? What is so special about these cities? Well, there's something very special, and this can be asked in the examination. These cities were not planned the usual way we have our cities nowadays. The planning of this city was done, like imagine this area, and the archaeologists also found this, that towards the west, the area was quite small, but it was higher. It was small, but it was higher. Whereas the area, and they just named it as Citadel. And the area towards the east, it was lower, but it was large enough. And the bricks that they used to construct the city, it was a very fine quality. Back then, they started to use baked bricks that we use nowadays. 4,700 years ago, each part of this citadel or the lower boundary, it was covered by bricks. Those bricks were laid in that interlocking pattern that made the walls very strong. Now you can see this interlocking pattern of the bricks. It makes the walls very, very strong. So people had knowledge about this back then in the subcontinent. At one of the places, I'll show you here, can you see this MohenjoDaro? We just talked of Harappa, but there's something very special about Mohenjo-daro. This Mohenjo-daro, people observed the citadel, the upper part. There was a special tank called the Great Bath. TNK. This Great Bath, it was made up of bricks, coated with plaster, watertight, and there were steps leading to it from both the ends. Here also, you can see there were steps leading to it. There was a proper outlet drainage from this tank. There were rooms here. So the water was carried by the people to this place, probably from a well. They carried the water from a well and got it to this place and then drained the water out. Whereas some of the very important people used to take a dip in this tank on a very special occasions. This might have been very auspicious for them. It might have some religious significance. So this Great Bath, it was found at the location Mohenjo-daro. So here we'll keep marking. This is where we have the Great Bath. They used plaster to make it. Not only plaster, but also they used natural tar. Now what is this tar to make this Great Bath? The natural tar. It is that gluey kind of thing, liquid, which can be produced from coal. So it's a black liquid. Sticky liquid to fix things. So that is what we learned about Mohenjo-Daro. Now let's have a look at all these important ancient sites so that you can remember them. Mohenjo-Daro, we just talked about it, it's in Pakistan. Sotkako is again in Pakistan. Chahudaro again in Pakistan. Dholavira, I'm going to talk about it in some time. Kalibhangan, Rajasthan. Dholavira, Surkotda, Lothal, all these are in Gujarat. Kalibhangan, Rajasthan. Rakhiguri, again Haryana, India. And Harappa, we already know it's there in Pakistan. So let me tell you an interesting fact about this Lothal and also Kalibhangan. One in Gujarat and the other one in Rajasthan. So these are the places, yes, where people started to use fire altars to sacrifice, to perform various sacrifices. Whereas, if I talk of Mohenjo-Daro, if I talk of Harappa that you'll see here, Mohenjo-Daro, Harappa, Lothal, these are the places where we say we've got elaborate storehouses. So I'll again mark it right here so that it becomes easy. Harappa, Mohenjo-Daro, and Lothal. These are the three places where we see storehouses. Now in the next session, we are going to talk about the houses, the drains, and the streets. So in case you like the session, please hit the subscribe button and leave a comment below. I'll get back to you in the next session. Thank you.